So I'm in DAZ 3D Hexagon 2.5 and I'm going to be comparing just one of the most basic tools that you're going to be using when you're doing 3D modeling, and that is Extrude. The fastest way to extrude within Hexagon is simply just to select a face and hold down the Control key. This is going to give us what's called the fast extrude. Now while we're doing this, we've obviously got the ability not only to extrude along a path, but we can extrude inner, as you can see here. So we can extrude very quickly within Hexagon. Not only can we extrude very quickly in Hexagon regarding the inner and extrude along a path, but we can also extrude and manipulate the direction in which we extrude very quickly. In fact, it's quicker than the other two applications which I'm going to be showing you. Why is this? Well, it's simply because of this located at the top left hand corner, and this is called the universal manipulator. We've got the standard translate, rotate and scale tools handles, but we've also got this universal manipulator. So what does this mean to you and me? Well, it basically means that we can rotate and translate while we are moving between our extrusions. This means that we can extrude in any direction really quick, and I'm sure you agree that this is rather quick. In fact, I've actually been able to model things very quickly within Hexagon very quickly. Now at the moment it's set to world axis. At the moment we can obviously go and change this to the selection axis, so it goes along its normal. So this is really nice. So just to emphasize on this just a little bit more, I'm just gonna say, for instance, rotate, translate, scale, and then I can just continue to extrude again. That's what you would call speed modeling. I mean, that is really fast. And of course, you know, you can see I'm creating some kind of animal body there by sheer accident, the body, neck and head. So that's one way that we can work within Hexagon. Another way that we can work, not using the fast extrude, is to use some of the other extrude tools. Let's just show you these. So I'm going to select a face, we're going to go to the modeling, and we've got this sweep surface. This means that we can just simply click and extrude. In addition to this, we've got the ability to extrude inner while at the same time we're moving along the path axis. We've got the addition to do just a radial, which is equivalent to Cinema 4D as the inner extrude, you can see there. So it locks it down. We've got the standard extrude that I was just showing you. Okay, we can just go big and small like this, and of course we're back down to this sweep path again. Very handy. So as you can see here, it's very flexible in what we can do. Of course, there is other options within Hexagon which makes this a really fast modeler. For instance, we can choose to keep the curve in which we've actually used or created while doing the extrusion. If I go to the bottom right, you can see this called dynamic geometry. I'm just going to expand this, and at the moment it's restrictive. I'm going to put it onto full dynamic geometry. Now we can do exactly the same thing again. We're going to select a cube in this scene here. You do get to have a few options when you're creating primitives as well, obviously, to slice up before you take it out into normal editable object. Let's just select this face. I'm going to go ahead and now go back to our extruding. We're going to go to our sweep surface. Okay, let's just keep this quite simple and then validate. You'll notice this time we've got in the dynamic geometry the curve, and the curve can now be edited so that we can now manipulate. Yes, that's get to the object and then we do some manipulation. So let's select one of these curves. You can see here we've got a live feedback. So we can go in there and select all of these. Okay. Of course, there are other options when it comes to curves. We can add extra points in there. We've got quite a few things in here, but I'm not going to go off the subject which I'm looking at the moment, which is extrusion. So you can see here we've got some nice options for extrusion, and I think between the 3 programs that I'm going to be showing you today, by far Hexagon is the fastest regarding extrusions. Moving over into Modo, very similar into what we was doing in Hexagon. The extrude can be found from the mesh edit tab in the polygon main room, you could say. We've got bevel and extrude. The extrude can be activated by Shift and X, and we just have to click once and then our extrude is now live. Now you notice that we've got the extrude. It's very simple and basic. If we want to now rotate, we have to press the E key. Okay, we can rotate, but when we let go of the E key, obviously it's still staying on that particular tool handle. So we have to go back to our translate, which is the W key. At the moment you can see it's not set to the selection, so we have to go, where is it, up here, action center, selection, and now it goes along its normal. You can see here from this that clearly there's a few more steps to things in here, so just something to keep in mind. So of course we activate our extrusion again, click, and then we can start to extrude. Okay, the difference between this and obviously Hexagon is the fact that we can actually add more segments to this single extrude. So this is quite nice. Okay, that's something that we can do. When we activate the bevel, on the other hand, we can bevel out similar to extrusion. We can also add different amount of segments to it. We can also extrude inner and outer, but this time we've actually got the handle here to do a inner extrude. Okay, and if I just hold on the shift key and click once, we can repeat the last tool that we just used to create another extrude. So shift click. Okay, it's pretty quick. The only thing we're missing here is the universal manipulator tool that we've seen in Hexagon, so you can rotate, scale and translate all from the same tool without dropping a bevel or extrusion. So that's pretty cool. One area where Hexagon lacks is where you can, say for instance, select multiple faces, and we go to say the bevel tool. Okay, and you notice that we can obviously go straight out like that. We can also take the group polygons off, and it gives us this. Now to some degree this does work in Hexagon, but when you've got objects going in completely different directions, for example you've got say a face here and a face here, and then you apply the bevel, okay, you'll find you'll get issues within Hexagon because it won't work on the basis of its own normal. Whereas in Modo, you can clearly see that's not an issue. In fact, you've got a lot of options within Modo in the selection type. So for instance, you've got the selection, the border, element, screen, origin, and so forth. So you really have got a lot of options for this. So it's pretty quick overall when it comes to working in Modo. Modo gives you a bit more flexibility, a bit more options than Hexagon, but it's by no means as fast regarding its extrusion. So let's quickly go straight on to Cinema 4D. Cinema 4D, we've obviously got an extrusion in Cinema 4D as well. You can right click and you've got all of these options here instantly available from a pop-up palette. And the ones that we're looking at here is the extrude and the extrude inner. So here they are. We've got the bevel, extrude and the extrude inner. Now we can obviously go to a different work set or a layout very similar to in Cinema 4D, where you've got a separate layout for modeling. When we do this in Cinema 4D, we've got some tools already set out for us down the bottom here, and that's obviously quite nice. That's activate the extrude, and as you would expect, you can extrude. You can also subdivide as you extrude. You've got options here to create caps, create n-gons, preserve groups in here. I don't believe there's really anything else really in here. Yeah, that's it really. So you've got the ability just to keep on extruding, and you don't have to click on any particular surface or anything like that. You can just simply click on the outside of the model and it will continue to extrude. The difference between this in Cinema 4D and in Modo is that when you press the R key, just for the momentarily, you can just press the R key and it flips to the rotation. Okay, and then when you let go, it will go back to the translation. Okay, and then of course when you click again, you can start to extrude. So Cinema 4D is much closer to Hexagon regarding the fast extrusion. There's less steps and there's a more convenient way to do your rotation. So I think that's really nice to be able to do that. You can see there. So for instance, we can say do an extrusion. We can quickly go to our scale. We can scale out. We're still right away back to our extrusion right away without having to reactivate the tool, where we can start to rotate. And obviously the additional thing that we've got here, which we didn't have in Hexagon, is the ability to automatically subdivide each time we extrude. One thing we haven't got, you can see on the extrude, as in Modo, is we haven't got the ability to like instantly extrude inner. Whereas obviously that's something that Hexagon does have. So if we click on extrude inner, this is where we get the tool to extrude inwards. But again, we can obviously move this out and continue to extrude like this as well. And again, we've got the options here for subdivisions, as you can see there. So that's pretty nice to be able to do that. The other extrude, which is not really extrude, it's a bevel. Okay, we just click on the bevel. It still has an effect of like extruding. You can see here that we've got quite a few more options here when it comes to this. So we can extrude how much, we can include how much it extrudes, how many times it subdivides that. Okay, and a particular shape. You can actually use a profile. You can also use a profile as well within Modo, which I didn't show you, and it's got a lovely selection of profiles within Modo. So that's quite nice to be able to have that as well. So it's pretty flexible. What I would prefer Cinema 4D to have is to have, for the extrude itself, the ability to have an in extrude with just a scale handle off the handle set. You can see it hasn't got this, but at least we can just quickly activate with the T key to scale in. So that's not too bad. Well, at least we can scale in if we wanted to. You can see here, and it does create, we just click once for instance, and it will at least allow us to extrude inner, very similar. But there we go. So I would still say that as far as the extruding tools go, Hexagon is definitely the fastest, but it has the least options. For instance, you can't subdivide between them, but it does give you this automatic curve line that you can edit later. Very nice. Modo, it gives you a little bit more options, and it gives you still a relatively nice extrude, as you would expect in most applications, but it's a little bit more slower in regarding that you've got more steps to go through. And then finally, Cinema 4D kind of sits between the two. It's very fast to extrude. We've got some nice abilities to quickly switch between translate, scale and rotate, without dropping the tool that we're working on, so that we can really quickly extrude basic forms and shapes. Very, very important if you want to get your modelling done quick.